Suppose that x is a discrete random variable. What we're going to want to know about x first is its distribution. So we're going to need to know its possible values, and we're going to need to know its probabilities. Now its possible values we're going to call x1, x2, and then just keep going down to xn, and its probabilities we'll call p1, p2, and we'll go down to pn for that. Next thing we're going to want to compute, in this case, is the standard deviation for x, also known as the standard deviation of the distribution of x. To do this, we're going to use the symbol sigma to stand for the standard deviation. Then the formula for doing this is going to start with a square root, and then what I will do is take the first x value, I'll subtract away the mean for the distribution and then square that. Now the mean is the mean of the distribution we computed before, so you might want to go back and look at that other video. Then we'll multiply it times our first probability. Then we'll take our second x value, we'll subtract away the mean, we will square that, and then multiply by our next probability, the p2, and then we will just continue doing that until we get to our very last x value, the one we call xn, where we subtract away the mean from that. We'll square that result and multiply it times our very last p-value. Now, for our example here, we're going to use a distribution we used in our mean video. So we'll have our possible values for x being -1, 0, and 9. And then our probabilities are going to be 0.1, 0.3, and 0.6. Now, if you remember from our mean video, we computed the mean of this distribution to be 5.3. So we want to compute the standard deviation of this distribution. So to write it down, we'll start out by just putting down the square root so we don't forget it. Then on the inside, what we're going to do is we're going to have to do the -1 minus the mean, which is 5.3. We'll square that result. Then we'll multiply times our first probability, which is 0.1. Then we'll add on our next x value, where we subtract off from it the mean, which is 5.3. We square that, and we multiply times our next probability, which is the 0.3. And then finally, since we only have 3 possible values, we'll take 9, we'll subtract off 5.3, we'll square that amount, and then multiply that times 0.6. Which, when we work that out a little bit, we're going to have the square root. We'll work out what's inside the square root for us. What we'll get is 3.969 for the first part, plus 8.427 for the next part. And for the last part, we'll get 8.214. And when we clean up the inside there a little bit more, we're going to get 20.61, which comes out to being 4.54, which is the standard deviation for our distribution. Now, the nice thing about computing this in the calculator, which is what we're going to do next, is that we've actually already done all the work. While we were computing the mean, we were actually computing the standard deviation at the same time. So just follow the same steps, and then you just have to look down the screen a little bit, and you'll see the second to last line has that sigma x, and it has the standard deviation of 4.539, which rounded is the 4.54 we got.